Good morning. Hi, you guys. It's Jane from Chalk Mercantile and Surface Anthology. Hope you're all well. I am going to show you guys today how to use the new Brocante Transfer. I'm going to use a little bird transfer and do some blending on this board with some paint and then apply this transfer and then do a little bit of wax mixing. So I want to kind of knock it back a little bit. Hopefully it will all work because I did just paint this board white with 2 coats of white chalk paint. Before I get started, I had a question about the Surface Anthology membership. So what the Surface Anthology membership is, it's a decorative painting membership. So it's for people that paint furniture or want to paint furniture, walls, doors, floors, projects like this. They want to create heirloom paint finishes. So paint finishes, they get even more beautiful as they age and are like looking at 18th, 17th century painted finishes. That's what I absolutely love, and why not, right? Why not paint a beautiful finish that's going to get more and more gorgeous? We explore different techniques. This month we're looking at frottage, and we're really, and also chalk paint basics. I got a few new members in and wanted to kind of go over that. And we're looking at one technique, and actually there was more than one technique this month. But we explore it and we dive deep into it, and it's a lot of fun. When you're a member, you get one of the perks is you're in a private Facebook community. You get access to other people who are doing the same things in me. You get 20% off in my Chalk Mercantile shop. So any of the products in there, that's one of the great perks about the membership. It is now $23 a month, quite a bargain. And if you go to surfaceanthology.com, and there's only 2 things up there. There's the Merrymakers Ornaments of the Box subscription, and we do have a few more of those left this month, and the Surface Anthology membership. You just click on that and you can join. And there's no commitment. If you don't like it, you could leave at any time. And anyway, I invite you to come and try it out. So now I just want to check on my dog over here who's crying. I think because his buddy went underneath the sofa because I was using the blow dryer. So now let's get started. As I said, we're going to be using one of the new transfers within the Brocante. Let me just fix this. Iron Orchid Transfer, this new one. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I do have some of these left. And we're going to be putting these little birds, and I did check to make sure that they will fit on this board. So I started by putting 2 coats of a really bright white chalk paint. So it's just a really clean white. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a sand. Going one way, get my tools out of the way, and then the other. And the reason I'm doing this is because I just painted this before I came on and used the blow dryer to dry it. And sometimes when you do that, you get a little membrane on top of the paint. So I want to break that up. Now, the blue that I chose, got to keep my water clean here. This is a new paint to me. It's called Tommy Art. It's from Italy. It's a mineral paint. So I'm assuming it's a chalk paint, but it doesn't have any kind of a finish in it. So I love trying new things. So I'm giving it a shot. And look at, I love the label. And I love this color with the little birds. So when you're doing something like this, you can look and you can say, well, what do I want to bring out? Do I want to bring out this a reddy orange color, this yellow, this blue, neutral? You really have so much inspiration from this little transfer. So first thing I want to do is make up a wash. So there's the paint, and that nice blue. And I'm going to give it a stir. And you don't need a lot to do something like this, so I'm not going to put a lot in here. Do you do that and you end up with like tons of mixed up washes and colors, and I hate throwing them away. Oh my God, I feel like I'm sinning. All right, so there's our blue in a little glass bowl, and I'm going to add some water. Oh, my nose. And I think I'm going to be using some art brushes today. So this is a synthetic, and it's kind of soft. We'll see how it acts. But it's a synthetic bristle brush. And I'm just mixing that up. And I think I'm going to leave it like this, kind of opaque. You know, a fun way to think about chalk paints, a fun way, but for those of you that are painters, it's like gouache, which is an opaque watercolor. And you could do whole murals in chalk paint. And you think of it like a gouache. All right, so I mixed up my blue, wipe off my board, and then what I'm going to do is put some water down, just some plain water. And I'm going to be more heavy on the bottom, and I'm just kind of bouncing it around, letting it kind of go where it wants to go. And when you're working like this, one of the things you have to be aware of is you can reactivate the paint underneath, the white paint. So you can't do too much messing around with this technique, or too much, you know, working that surface. So now I'm just putting this blue into the wet areas. And just pouncing it in there. It's a really beautiful color for sure. And it's just starting to look like a sky, which was what I was thinking. A very abstract sky. And you can add some more water when you're doing this. It's a really fun technique. And what's already happening is, and let me hold it up and hopefully I won't have a giant mess, but you can see where it's already kind of staining and being absorbed by the white chalk paint. So now I'm going to grab another little artist brush, and I'm just kind of pulling. If you put this right next to some of these darker blobs, the pigment gets pulled up into them. And we're actually doing a little bit of this technique in this month's Merry Makers ornaments. We're going to be doing just some really simple, relaxing washes. So the only thing I think I'm going to do is add a little bit more up in here. So there's more blue on top of their heads. Now this is going to be interesting when I go to dry it with the blow dryer, because you know what's going to happen. It's all going to move around, but that's okay. All right. And while it's drying, you can go in and move some of that blue around. It's really fun. And you really are watercoloring. All right, let's put these in. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. Now, I'm just going to kind of move it around, really because I need to move some of this water around. So I've got a lot of water on here. All right, and now I'm going to grab my blow dryer. Get everything out that can blow away. And I'm just moving it over these little paint puddles. Now, if you wanted to, if you get it to a point like over in this area, it's really beautiful, you leave it to dry overnight. You just put it down like this. Make sure it's really flat, because if it's even on an angle a little bit, overnight it's just gonna move that way. We don't have that luxury because I've got to get it dry. And I'm just kind of pushing the paint around with the blow dryer. And you can see as it's drying, you're getting all different kind of values of that blue. It's a really beautiful technique, and you can keep adding colors, doing layers. You can get really complex with this. So it kind of looks like an angry fall sky. Very cool. What I'm gonna do is lift a little bit of the blobs that I have out. I'm using my little natural sea sponge. If you guys don't have one of these, they are the best. I use them all the time. But you need to wet it, squeeze it out really, really well. And then I'm just gonna kind of lift out some of these areas and blend a little bit. Because I really need this to dry, but it adds a really cool texture. And you see how it's kind of pulling out some areas. All right. Okay, looks good. Now I'm just gonna get it dry and we will put our transfer on. Now I want to show you one little technique really quick that like an area like this, if you feel like it's too dark, and I would do this as, you know, as soon as you can, you know, after it's dry while you're painting. But you could take your artist brush and kind of go in there and you can work that chalk paint. And soften this whole area. It's so much fun. It's really a lot of fun. And you can absolutely do this on furniture. And then you see me ruin it with the blow dryer. Good. So what I do before I put on a transfer or anything, I am going to run the sanding block over it. I want to make sure it's really dry and it still feels warm. So if you try this at home, just give it a little bit of time to dry between each step. And I don't mean just dry to the touch, but there's moisture in this paint, there's moisture now on the board, and it just, you know, that's just how it works. So I'm just giving it a little sand, break up that surface. And don't be like me, but use a micro fiber cloth. Mine are all in the wash. But you want it to have no dust or anything on it. Okay, so there's our fun little board. Very dramatic. And we're going to cut out these adorable, how cute are these birds? And you leave the top, the grid plastic on when you're cutting out. Go around that little bee's leg. And there is a grid here. So when I take this off, make sure this is the little burnishing tool that comes with the transfers. This is the plastic backing. And as usual, I'm going to eyeball my little birds here and get them on as evenly as I can. So that's how you start, right? So there's our birds with the stormy October sky behind them. And then you just take the burnishing tool and burnish. These are just so cute. And I've got a powder room that has a really deep red. It's actually called Radicchio on the walls, and I thought this would be really cute in there. I've got some old prints of squirrels and bees in there, and I thought it would look really adorable. So what I do is I have to lift and make sure everything is getting burnished in. I kind of lift it as I go. It's really, really cool how these transfers work. And much like my personality, I'm not organized when I do this. And I suspect if you are, like if you just work from one side to the other in a systematic way, it would work better. I've got one little spot that doesn't want to adhere, and I suspect it's like the other day when I did the transfers on the clay, and the clay was wet. I think I have one little wet spot there. I'm gonna turn it over. So if you see, if you're lifting up like I just did and you see a little spot left, put it down, burnish again, get that spot to adhere. And I've got to get his eye. Well, there's one little spot, and I may have to go in later and paint it in. I think it was one little wet spot of paint. Yeah. Now, I haven't tried this before, pulling it off. Oh, how cute is that? I just have to get this. And there's his little head. All right. So look at how adorable this is so far. Got all our little birds lined up. And hopefully this little guy's eye won't move. But I'm going to take it, my piece of plastic, the backing, and I'm just going to give it one more burnishing so that I know everything is down. Okay, so now what I want to do is I have to finish it, right? We have to finish it. And I'm going to use a mixture of clear wax and a little bit of wax, colored wax that's called anthracite. So I'm using my Amy Howard, this is a 1.5 inch natural bristle brush. I don't use my big monstrous brush when I'm mixing colors. You have to use a natural bristle brush too. So I've got my clear, and I'm using Authentico wax. I've got a little bit of clear, and now I'm going to add the anthracite. And all I need is a little tiny bit. And I love this color. I'm going to start by just applying a thin layer of clear. Make sure this is all down, especially you. And I think what I want to do is put two like little decorative hooks here, and then maybe a pretty ribbon in this warm orangey color, orangey red, to hang it. I think that would look really nice. All right, now I just take my little palette here, and I'm gonna get a little bit of that anthracite mixed in with the clear. And I'll test it on the bottom, love it. And I'm just gonna kind of tickle that on. And I'll show you what it looks like from one side to the other. So here it is with just the clear wax over that white and that blue color. The color is actually called petroleum. And here it is with the anthracite mixed in. So you see how it still reads white, but it knocks it back a little bit. It's not as bright and in your face. So that's why I do this, because this is a little bright. So I'm gonna get a little bit more on my brush for other side. And same thing. And if you have a piece like this and you're working on it and you live with it for a few days and you still feel like it's too bright, or there are areas that are too bright, you can grab your wax and go back in and knock those back a little bit like I'm doing. Just remember, just like the chalk paint, when you work into dry wax with new fresh wax, wet wax, it's going to reactivate the wax underneath. So you have to just be aware of that. Look at how adorable this is. Of course, now the sun's coming out, but it just makes this sweet little piece of art that you could hang. And I use this blue as my accent color. If I feel like, here's another thing that you might want to do. If this is too wild for you, if you're like, oh my God, you know, that blue is just too crazy. Once the wax is dry, so I'll just show you down here a little bit, but you can take your sanding block and you can go into that blue. Now remember, my wax is wet here, it's not dry, but you can go in there, grab a rag, and you can soften. And remember, this is for once it's waxed. Unwaxed, you can use water to soften your blue or whatever color you choose. Once it's waxed, you grab your sanding block, and I've got an old, fine sanding block. Don't use anything too coarse. And having a little project like this is a really, really good way to try out these techniques before you move on to furniture. Do this a little bit more and I'll show you guys what this looks like. This is the really fun thing about chalk paint too. You can play with chalk paint and a chalk paint finish, and the more you mess around with it, the better it looks. It really, really does. So, you see how I softened that finish? And here's more of the really fresh finish without any of that. So I am gonna off camera mess around with this a little bit more now, because now that I did it on this side, I'm gonna go around and kind of mess around with it a little bit on the other side and maybe down here. And then I'm gonna do another coat of the clear wax with a little bit of anthracite mixed in. And then I'm gonna hang it up. I'm gonna go get some little decorative hooks and some ribbon. I collect antique ribbons and different things, so I think that would look really pretty. So give this a try, you guys. Let me know how it goes. To go over what I used clear wax and anthracite wax by Authentico. I used Tommy Art chalk paint in petroleum. They call it a mineral paint. So that's the blue that you see. I used a base of bright white chalk paint and the new Brocante Transfer. Let me just show you the cover. So gorgeous. And I'm waiting to use my, the little lady here that looks like Marie Antoinette. I don't know where I want to put her, so it has to be a special project because she's just so sweet, and I'm just crazy about her. So give it a try, you guys. Any questions at all, ask me in the comments. Go to surfaceanthology.com if you're interested in the Surface Anthology membership or the Merry Makers Ornaments of the Month subscription box. And you have until October 31st to join up and get the cameos, the IOD cameos mold and the Iron Orchid air dry clay, along with a whole bunch of other stuff to make these really beautiful ornaments that we're making. And we are doing some washes with them, so you're learning some techniques there too. All right, you guys, have a great day today and happy painting. See you later.